everybody, and welcome to my very first solo podcast. I guess we have kind of a multi kind of podcast for you today. It is a passomer and podcast story. I will be reading a book that I wrote. It is called Is Bryce McCain. So, without further ado, here we go. Hi there. I am the author. My name isn't important right now. You will find it out later. My story isn't the one you are going to hear either. It's one about a murder sociopath named Bryce McCain. Rather, who Bryce McCain is. To really learn who he is, we have to go all the way to the beginning, when he was born. Bryce was born May 6, 1971, at St. Joseph's Hospital. He didn't know what his life had in store, or what he would become. He lived in a small-ass cabin. It had one room, where his mom, Debbie McCain, his dad, Larry McCain, and he would lay at night. A small kitchen and an outhouse that reeked of shit. Debbie was a sweet woman. She had that voice that always calmed Bryce down after any fight at school. He would always look in her eyes, and he knew she loved him and was always going to be there to cheer him up. His dad would work day and night on their strawberry farm, never raised a hand to his woman. He was stern, stubborn, and the most generous man Bryce had the pleasure of knowing. Bryce always looked up to his dad from when he was just a little one, crawling to that day. But we will get to that in a moment. The year is September 19th, 1978. Bryce is just outside his house after walking back from probably the best day of school he's had. Bryce was never really that popular or liked at school. When he hears his Uncle Doug arguing with his parents, he couldn't make out what they were arguing about, for he was still too far away. But then out of nowhere, bang, there was a loud gunshot. Bryce rushes inside to see his mother lying there on the floor, blood flowing out of her lower abdomen, filling and pouring out of Larry's hands, who tries to keep pressure. Uncle Doug rushes out of there with not a moment to lose. Bryce runs over to his bleeding mother and now crying father with tears in his own eyes. "Mommy, no," Bryce cries out. "You're going to be okay, Mommy. You're going to be okay." Bryce looks up with a snot-covered face, unable to catch his breath. "Right, Dad. Mommy's going to be okay." That's when he sees it, his dad's lower lip quivering. You can tell he's trying to hold it in front of his boy, but just isn't able to. That's when his mom speaks up with her dying breath and says, "Honey, I am not going to make it. But remember, dear, I will always love you." So that's the day. Fast forward another 2 years. It's been really hard for Bryce and his father since the murder of his mother. It took a bad toll on Bryce's father. He stopped taking care of the strawberry patches and drinks all day long. But Bryce got a job and is trying to do his best. But sometimes the littlest spark can set the biggest fire. And that's what happened this day. He was working on his neighbor's new fence he had been building and painting all summer, and that's when he spotted him, the dirty sack of shit that murdered his mother, Uncle Doug. Bryce walks over, hammer in hand, and without second-guessing it, he bashed his brains. Whack after whack, the blood, the brain chunks stuck to the hammer. It made him feel excited. Unfortunately for Bryce, his neighbor witnessed everything and called the cops. Bryce was found guilty and sent 2 years in prison. His father wasn't there to pick him up after he was arrested, wasn't there when he got his sentence, and never visited him in jail. But he wasn't why Bryce became who he is. That's all on Bryce. He enjoyed killing. In fact, he killed 9 inmates within his first month. My apologies. He did make one friend in there, a thief. He went by the name Stacks, because that's what he would make. Eventually, Bryce thought that he needed more than just the bars on his windows and the concrete walls that surrounded him. So he flipped his attitude completely around. He volunteered for anything he could. He followed the rules, never gave any guards or inmates any shit again. After another 3 more years were added to his sentence, for the murders, he was released from prison. My God, my apologies, people. On good behavior and not being a menace to society anymore. He was now a troubled teenager, broken and alone. His father, disappointed in him, refuses to let Bryce stay with him. His mother, murdered by his own uncle. He decided to get a jump start on life and tried to get a job and go back to school. Sadly, this doesn't work out too well for him. Chapter 2, Finally Free. Sorry, that was Chapter 1, Introduction. The year is December 6th, 1984. Bryce has been working in a convenience store and living on his own for the past year. He has finally got his life together. Well, as normal as he can get it for an ex-convict who was only 14. He has friends at school, a good-paying job, his own house he built with his own 2 hands. Everything was absolutely perfect. It was a snowy December morning, the alarm clock blaring, and Bryce looks over. Shit, I'm late for school. He rushed out of bed and got his clothes on, quickly brushed his teeth, and out the door he went. Hello there, Bryce, an elderly woman yells out as he rushes past, trying to hurry his ass to school. Good morning, Miss Burnham. Sorry I can't stay and chat. I'm late for school. And with that, he was back on his way. He had finally arrived at school, and that's when his first period bell rings. God damn it. I missed my first period science. Better hurry my ass to math. As he enters class, he looks toward his seat. Sat beside him is someone who he doesn't know. She's a blonde, around 5'3", nice pink prescription glasses. He carries around a blue diary everywhere. Bryce noticed the blue diary and thought to himself, maybe she likes to write stories. I wonder if she likes telling them. Bryce scurries to his desk and places his things down as he takes his seat. He leans over to the new girl and says, Hi, I'm Bryce McCain. You must be new. What's your name? I'm Jen Donnelly, she replies with a greeting smile. Bryce thought, this is it. I can finally reinvent myself. She has no idea who I am or what I have done. I noticed your diary. Do you like to write stories? Bryce asked Jen. Duh, she joked. Bryce let out a little squeaky laugh. Now embarrassed, he asked, how about telling stories? I love drawing, writing stories, and telling stories. I want to become a professional writer when I'm older, she replies. Class finally started, but Bryce could not wait until the end of the day. He was going to ask her to come to his place, and maybe they could write a book together. But that's when he remembered, oh no, I got something I gotta take care of tonight, and I can't keep pushing it off. Bryce showed up extra early at school the next day, so that way he would be able to see Jen again. He had such a great time talking to her, he wanted to know everything about her. There she was, holding her little blue diary, but her glasses, she wasn't wearing them. Instead, She had one big purple, blue, and black eye. Bryce, worried and angered, waits for Jen to sit down when he asks, "What happened to your eye?" Jen does her best to look at the teacher, calling the attendants and ignoring the question. "What happened to your eye, Jen?" he asked once more. "None of your business. Why can't you just leave it alone, Bryce?" Jen screams before storming out of class. Bryce sits in his seat, embarrassed and sorry. The science teacher rushes after her in the hallway. A few moments later, the teacher comes back in class and calls Bryce into the hallway. The science teacher closes the classroom door behind them as they head into the hallway. Sitting on the ground, leaned against the lockers with her head tucked in between her knees, is Jen. "She wants to speak to you alone. I'll be in the class if you guys need anything," the science teacher says before entering the classroom. Bryce looks over at Jen, takes a deep breath in, and walks over to her and sits down. "Are you going to tell me what happened to your eye, or do you want me to leave it alone?" Bryce asked in a calm voice as he rubs her back, trying to calm her down. "He wasn't always this way. It started when I was 6 years old," Jen sniffled. "A man they owed money to showed up at the door and hit my dad real hard in the head with a bat. My mom, he tied up and did some really bad things to her. I was hiding up in my room, but I could hear them screaming, telling the man to stop, but he did not until I heard a loud bang. And then my father screaming, 'Audrey, no, you killed her. You bastard, you killed her.' After that, Daddy wouldn't stop drinking, and the more he drank, the worse he got with the hitting." Jen wipes the tears from her eyes before continuing. "But I'm used to it. I love my daddy, and I know he's only doing it because he's hurting." "It's not right," Bryce roared. "You are a child. You are his child. He shouldn't be hitting you like this. I wish I could do something about it. Teach that bastard a lesson," he added. "Stop. That's my dad. He's not a bad guy. He is a loving, caring father. He hurts you. How is that caring? It seems he only loves hurting you because he doesn't have something he loves. I also lost my mother, but my dad never harmed me. He drank a lot. Stopped working, but never did he lay a hand on me. That's a man. Your dad is scum." Jen finally let out a small smile and said, "Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being there for me." With that, she reached out her arms and put them around Bryce and pulled him in for the first hug he has had in years. Bryce just sits there, shocked for a moment, wondering what's happening, until he raises his arms around for a hug as well, and says with a little smirk, "I will always be there for you." Chapter 3. Dad's Sweet Dad. The year is February 24th, 1985. It's the weekend, so Bryce is at home relaxing, eating some cereal, flipping through channels when he hits the news. 34-year-old murdered in his own house. That man, Craig Donnelly. The news anchor stated. Bryce didn't seem to be shocked. Jen's dad wasn't a good person anyways, he thought. Once he was done eating, he put his dishes away and went to Jen's house to see how she was doing, or if she was placed in foster care. Luckily, when he showed up, Jen answered the door. "Hi, Jen. May I come in?" Bryce asked. She nodded, undid the chain, and opened up the door to allow Bryce inside. When he stepped inside, Bryce was greeted by a whiff of freshly baked cookies. I hope your friend likes cookies," Jen's grandmother stated. "A fresh batch just came off the stove," she added. "Oh my, I love cookies, thank you," Bryce replied as he walked over to the cookies, licking his lips in hunger. As he grabbed his cookies, he and Jen went up to her room to talk. "So I'm guessing you are here because of what you saw in the news, right?" "Of my dad," Jen stated. Well, yeah, I wanted to make sure you were okay, or if you were placed in a home or something. Are you okay?" Not really. He was my dad, and yes, he did hit me a lot, but I loved him, and I always prayed that one day he would get better. But I have a confession to make, Jen stated, a little agitated. I know you have something to do with it. I don't know how, why, or what you did to my father, but I know you were behind it. Ever since I met you, you gave me a strange feeling. I came to school and poured my feelings out to you, and that my father is dead, Jen screamed. Are you kidding me, Jen? I'm a 14-year-old child. How would I pull off a murder? Why would I try and pull off a murder? I was not behind this. I can prove it to you. If you come over to my place, I can show. Bryce tried to explain himself, but Jen cuts him off. Get out of my house. I don't care how long it takes. I will prove that you, Bryce McCain, killed my dad. Whatever you say, Bryce replied as he left. Bryce was so pissed off, he didn't know why Jen would blame him out of nowhere with no reason. But if there's one thing he knows, it's people abandoning him. Jen was sure that Bryce had something to do with her father's disappearance. In fact, she was so sure she worked the next 3 days doing any little job she could just to get a camera to spy on him with. The next day, Bryce and Jen went to school, but with only one thing in mind. Jen and Bryce didn't care about school, didn't want to learn math. Jen wanted to know one thing. Who was Bryce McCain? And Bryce, he wanted to know why she thinks he's a murderer. After school, Bryce was on his way to work when he ran into his school bully, Adam Richardson. Hey, Is McCain, what are you doing here, huh? Working to get me some more lunch money? He mocked. Piss off, Adam, Bryce replied. Adam grabbed Bryce by the scruff of his shirt and said, What was that, dirtbag? You're so dead. In a split second, Bryce was on his ass, getting hit left and right, from fist to foot, until finally he couldn't take it anymore and passed out from pain. When he came to, nobody was around, and he was 3 hours late for his job. Once he showed up, his boss was so angry he was fired. Oh, come on, I was late once and you're going to fire me. That's completely unfair, he roared. He even tried explaining what was going on, but it didn't matter. The decision was made. Bryce's life was becoming a living hell again. On his way home, he passed by Jen's house, so he stopped by to ask her why she thought he was a murderer. I get a strange feeling when I talk to you. You wanted to make my dad pay a lot when I tried talking to you about my feelings. Now he's actually missing. I knew almost everybody my dad knew. Nobody hated him. He was abusive. But we hid it until I told you, and now he is dead. So please tell me, why shouldn't I think you are the one behind this? Jen huffed. Bryce was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Bryce turned around without saying a single word and went on his way. He had lost the only friend he had since prison, and he didn't want to go back to that. When he went back home, he saw the hammer he bashed his uncle's head open with. In the moment, he remembered the feeling he had, the excitement, the joy, the sound of his uncle pleading for his life, then gurgling on his own blood until silence. That's when he remembered another thing, something he never thought he did. He was using the same hammer on Jen's father, and again he remembered the sound of her dad's leg snapping as he smashed the hammer down on it, the sound of the blood splash out of his head and onto the floors. He wanted to cry. No, he wanted to not enjoy it. Not cry, but he wanted to not enjoy it so much. But there was nothing he could do. Bryce McCain is a murderous sociopath. Chapter 4, Evidence. The year is March 5th, 1985. I know he killed my father. I just need to get some proof, Jen thought. 2 more dead. 36-year-old woman, Marilyn Richardson, and her 17-year-old son, Adam Richardson, found dead in their home, murdered. The anchorman stated, No way. 2 more dead. Okay, this is it. I have to try and gather evidence against him and bring its attention to the police. Jen had her priorities set. Number 1, get evidence. Number 2, throw his ass in jail. For the next couple days, Jen followed Bryce, taking pictures of every place he goes in and leaves. All she could gather is the fact that he was looking for a new job, which he really was. But little did Jen know that Bryce had his own plans. He had low-key been planning this since the very day he had met her. But he didn't let her in on it. When Jen decided to finally give up on the investigation, she decided to go to the local library and maybe, just maybe, there were newspapers explaining what he has done before. After a 20-minute bike ride, Jen finally arrived at the library. It was so much smaller than she thought it would be. She looked and she looked until she finally found a stack of old newspapers. The first one read, 2 girls strangled at home. But she decided to push on. Convenience store manager had bashed in. That's a little suspicious, she thought to herself, and then she found it. The one that brought them all together. Uncle murdered by nephew who was accused of murdering nephew's son. That's horrible. That would turn anyone into a serial killer. Poor kid. But I still need to send you to jail. After Jen was done reading the newspapers, she headed home. The next day, Jen got ready, ate her breakfast, and went to school. All day, the only thing she could think about is, who are you, Bryce McCain? Are you an innocent boy? Or are you a murderous asshole? I will find out. Jen could definitely tell that Bryce was up to something. He kept glancing at the clock. It seemed like he really wanted to leave. And that he did. During lunch, Bryce left right away. Curious, Jen of course had to follow him. But the more she followed, the more she questioned what was going on. They were walking past people on the street, places looking for hire. He didn't even stop at the grocery store. He walked and walked until they came upon a small cabin. What are we doing here? Does he know someone here? Perhaps his next victim, Jen thought as she snapped pictures of everything. Captivated and curious, Jen stays, but far back enough that Bryce can't spot her. As she sits there in the bushes, Bryce knocks on the front door and waits. He knocks about 3 more times, then finally someone answers. He's tall, around early 40s. It was his dad, Larry McCain. I have something for you, Dad. You left me without anything, Bryce huffed. No food, no water, no family, nothing but, and right before he finishes his sentence, he pulls out a hammer and smacks it across his dad's face, instantly breaking his nose, jaw, and sending him dropping to his knees. Without a moment's hesitation, and Larry refusing to lift a finger to his son, Bryce struck his dad another 4 times in the head with the hammer. Jen was so terrified, but she had to stay silent so she wouldn't be caught taking pictures. Bryce finally finishes beating his dead dad with the hammer, and as he gets up and turns around to look out the open door, the sun sends a glare at him from in the bushes. It's Jen's camera. Of course, he doesn't know who it is watching him from the bushes, but he is still worried about whoever is watching him. Even still, he doesn't let whoever it is know that he noticed them. He goes on to try and clean the blood off the hammer before leaving the body where it is, the door open, and leaving. Jen, shocked to her core, races home on her bike as fast as she can so she doesn't get murdered, and also to make sure her grandmother is safe. Oh God, I have to hurry up and get home. But then again, he has only killed those who hurt others, right? But no, I hurt him. I called him a murderer. There's no way he doesn't hate me. She finally makes it home when she sees the door slightly open. Please no. Sorry, I lost my place 1 second. She finally made, please no, not my grandmother, Jen thought to herself as she opened the front door. The rest of the way, there on the ground, lying in a pool of her own blood, was Jen's grandmother, dead. She runs over crying and drops to her knees, grabs onto her grandmother and cries out, "Grandma, no, please. Why would he do this to you? Why?" Then Bryce sneaks up from behind and smashes her in the back of the head with the handle of his hammer, knocking her out. Chapter 5. Close to Freedom. This is the final chapter, guys. The year is March 12th, 1985. When Jen came to, she was in a small cabin almost like the one that Bryce murdered his father in, but not quite. It was a replica. He built his house from when his mother was alive at the age of 14. Crazy, Jen thought. Remember when we first met? I asked you, "Do you like to write stories?" Then you replied with, duh." Then I asked, "Do you like to tell stories?" Bryce asked, while facing a camera towards Jen. "Yes, I remember," Jen replies nervously. "Excuse me. What about that? So what, I like to tell stories," she added. "Well, I know you have been following me, Jen. I saw the glare from your camera. I have to admit, I didn't expect you to be investigating me. I thought you were just talking shit. But good for you. You got close." Bryce mocked. "You're a murderous asshole. Why are you doing this?" Jen screamed. "It started when I was younger. I went to jail for murdering my uncle. Then I was in jail. Within the first month, I murdered 9 different inmates. But that wasn't enough," Bryce exclaimed. "I needed more. So I volunteered and did everything I could to seem like I changed. Like I was a good kid. Like I wasn't a menace to society anymore. But really, I just wanted to find all different kinds of people to hurt. Good people, bad people, or even the worst of people. I just can't control myself. It started with the 2 teens once I got out. Then the convenience store manager for trying to fire me the first time. Then your dad, then the Richardsons, and finally my dad for abandoning me." Bryce added, "But why are you kidnapping me? I did nothing to you," Jen questioned. "No one would ever listen to someone like me. Like you said, murderous sociopath. So I figured since you like telling stories so much, I made a script for you to follow. I will record and you will be my voice. You will tell everyone my story, and if I like it, I might let you go before killing myself. If not, I kill you before killing myself. I will give you 2 days to practice your script. I want this to be perfect," Bryce replied. The first day being kidnapped was hard for Jen. I guess being kidnapped would be hard on anybody. He did feed her, and then he would beat her, but he would stop before she died. Then he would rehydrate her, give her some food, and then beat her while she practices. Day 2, he was more lenient, untied her, stopped the beatings, and would even let her roam the house until she saw an opening. He was in the outhouse while she was in the kitchen getting water. She saw the door was unlocked and tried to make a run for it. Unfortunately, she was too late. He was leaving the outhouse when he saw her running across the lawn. He chased her down until he tackled her to the ground, only to drag her back to the chair in the kitchen and tie her down again. I wanted to give you a couple days to practice, but now I'm just going to kill you after we're done. Bryce huffed. Now read your script, he roared impatiently. Jen began reading. Hi there, I am the author. My name is important right now. You will find it out later, though. My story isn't the one you are going to hear either. It's one about a murderous sociopath named Bryce McCain. Rather, who Bryce McCain is. Jen stopped reading from the script and began begging Bryce to let her go. Bryce walks over. Fucking ad popped up one sec. Bryce Bryce walks over with a strange smirk on his face, the same smirk he gave her when he promised he would always be there for her. I'm going to watch the news. When I'm done, you better be ready, Bryce said as he slammed the door behind him. Jen, not caring about the rope burns on her arms, making it feel like there wasn't any skin left, starts tugging and tugging for dear life. Finally, she was able to pull her hands free. She bolted towards the knives and grabbed one. Bryce gets up from the couch near the television, grabs his hammer off of his coffee table beside the couch and begins charging at Jen. Jen, just wanting to live, lunges with all her might at Bryce. Bryce lifts his hammer, but it was too late. Jen had struck him in the chest with her knife, repeatedly stabbing him around 6 times, hands covered in blood. She eventually got up and limped towards the door. She was finally free. She opened the front door, and the taste of fresh, cool air filled her lungs. As she takes her first step to freedom, Bryce gets up off the ground, reaches out, and grabs her hair, tugging it so hard he pulls her down to the ground. That's when he gets on one knee, leans over to whisper in her ear and say, I promised you I'd always be there for you. And that's it, everybody. That was Who Is Bryce McCain. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, there will be a link to the book in the description so you guys can read it yourself. Until next time, peace out, everybody.